Hello. Today's episode is with Kirsten Carey, guitarist and lead of the band Throwaway. We get into a cool conversation about her history in music, studying jazz, and getting into free improvisation and punk and art rock. And we talk about her band Throwaway, which she's the lead of, and the process for making music, making videos, and how to use music to explore all sorts of personal ideas and issues in the past, and political ideas, philosophies about life, all sorts of things like that. But before we get to that, please remember that I am a value-for-value based musician and podcaster, which means that I provide content out to the world, and I ask that if my content provides any value to you, that you respond in kind by providing value back to me. There's easy ways to do that. The simplest ways to do that are to leave a comment, subscribe, things like that. Also, I love comments because I love engaging with the community of people who are listening to the things I put out, and I love responding and sort of getting a dialogue going. Other ways of providing value are you can donate to my Venmo, you can donate Bitcoin, or you can sign up on my Patreon on a monthly basis. And if you sign up on my Patreon, you get all sorts of bonus content depending on the tier that you pick. A couple of announcements before we get into the show. I have some shows coming up with Sap and Claw Elixir this coming September. On September 15th, we are playing at Valhalla in Austin, Texas. And on September 17th, we're playing at the Pecan Street Festival in Austin, Texas. Also, if you want to hear me play, I'm always playing around Austin with various people. I play with Ruby Groove, Candace Bellamy, Joyce Taus, Solero Salsa Band. I have a solo act that I play around town. So just look me up. I'm always playing around town. So come hang out, have a beer.
Welcome to Music in Mind with Anthony Calkins.
Hello, everybody. I'm here with Kirsten Carey, who is also the face and is Throwaway, right?
Well, Throwaway, the character, is her own identity, but I am
see.
the real world counterpart, yes.
Okay, interesting. Very cool. Okay, so it's difficult to introduce Throwaway because it's a little bit, we were just talking about this, a little bit hard to define. Mm-hmm. But I saw you perform in LA a few years ago, actually many years ago now, at Ham and Eggs. It was probably like 5-6 years ago or something like that.
Oh, scary.
Yeah, well, because we met, I sort of knew about you through connections through UW, Ben Willis and AJ Grimm and stuff like that. So I sort of knew who you were. It's funny, but then I didn't meet you until I was out in California, and it was at a UC Irvine party.
Right.
Yes, yeah. It was a UC Irvine party with Lizzie Erickson, because I think you were working on an album with her. She was recording it at the time, and then I saw you perform at Ham and Eggs in LA with Oliver Dobrian.
Right.
And I was just blown away. Throwaway is such a cool thing. It's just this musical force that's sort of all over the place. And you said you don't like calling it punk, but so what is Throwaway to you?
It's a weird, it's like, I feel at least like the first two Throwaway albums, which the public has heard, are kind of the product of me chewing up and then spitting out like Primus and Mr. Bungle and like Deerhoof. Mm-hmm. I think those are kind of the big ones.
Okay, all right.
So it's kind of like got this punk energy to it, but like the reason I have kind of eschewed the punk label, or at least like am hesitant,
right,
is that I feel like they're always got this kind of like math rock element to it, but it's not math rock.
Yes.
And so it's like kind of it's more like as I have found out time and time again touring in the before times, like if you put Throwaway on a bill together with like punk bands, it doesn't actually make that much sense.
Interesting. Okay. Huh. I'm trying to remember if there were other bands at that Ham and Eggs show.
I think it was.
I think there were. I just don't remember.
Yeah, there were. I feel like maybe my friend did Offcell play that.
I really don't remember.
I think there might have been like an avant-garde jazz quartet.
Oh, wow.
And then like maybe my friend Ricky's band played, and he plays like indie rock.
Uh-huh.
Like,
interesting.
Yeah, it's actually sort of like I've found it very tricky to book bills for Throwaway in America, because there's not a lot of bands where we kind of fit cozily with. It's sort of usually like we have like this aspect of our music, and so like this is like a band that's like drawing on this, but then like maybe our music is more like aggressive than theirs, so like their fans may not actually like us.
Interesting. Yeah. I think there's something happening in music, because there's a lot of new music coming out like Throwaway, or not even necessarily like Throwaway. I just mean music has changed a lot in the last decade, I think, with new music creators. And I think that, I don't know if it's the record industry, I don't know what it is, but genres haven't changed, genre ideas.
Right.
And I feel like if you go back through the 50s through the 90s, rock shifted. The genre actually shifted as the band shifted, but rock means something now. There's like a wall around what rock is. And so there's all these new bands that are doing things just like bands have always done. They're always shifting and changing with the times, but the genres don't mean anything anymore. Or maybe they mean too much. They mean something too specific.
Right. I mean, I feel like another band that sounds very different from us, but we share at this present time like two members with, is aforementioned Ben Willis's band Saj Talk.
Yes.
Where like there's no like neat way to describe Saj Talk's music.
Right. Yep.
And like, you know, because of the way that the music industry works, and like, you know, you're trying to promote your band and all these promoters are like, so what genre is it? What do you call it? And you're just sort of like,
I don't. Yep.
Like they have that problem as well. And the kind of sad thing is that like, I mean, I'll talk about this for Saj Talk so that I don't sound like an arrogant asshole talking about my own music. But I feel like, you know, like Saj Talk is like one of the more like interesting bands out there, and I think like a lot of
interesting.
Thank you. See, this is the jump that I'm trying to, you know, encourage. Yeah. But I feel like there's this kind of parodical thing where like some of the more like interesting and inventive music being made by people right now is hard to describe, and therefore it's hard to promote, and therefore a lot of people aren't getting to hear it because there's no like infrastructure to like give it to people. Maybe.
Yeah. It's like the double-edged sword of infrastructure, because it becomes as it grows, it becomes a gatekeeping system, sort of by definition. But you need it to a point to get anywhere.
Right.
It's like the problem of YouTube, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy how that works. But you mentioned that you do better in other countries.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So where is it easiest, would you say?
We've only gone to Japan.
Okay.
I hope to go to Europe next year. That's kind of like on my 2023 aspiration board. But we went to Japan in 2019, and it was freaky how it just worked.
Wow.
Like every gig we played on, there was like at least one other band that like really, 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 really made sense with us.
Nice. Okay.
And I mean, like, but also if you think of, you know, now since the pandemic, one of the bands that has become very popular, at least in kind of the circles that Throwaway seeks to travel in, is like Otoboke Beaver, which is a band from Kyoto.
Okay.
And I feel like Otoboke Beaver has now become like our like top like RIYL pitch.
Okay.
Like, do you know that band?
No?
They're great. They're phenomenal.
Okay.
It's a all-female quartet.
Cool.
And they do have like similar to Throwaway, like a very kind of like punk energy, but like their timing and like the structure is like very like they're clearly like trained musicians, you know?
Okay.
Not to say like of course like a lot of punk musicians are trained musicians as well. I'm not trying to say that, but like the timing of Otoboke Beaver songs is like more has like that kind of math element to it.
Is it beaver as in like the animal?
The animal, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's my band's mascot.
Oh, good.
It's great. They're so cute. I'm always like sending videos to the bass player of beavers like carrying food.
Great.
They're hard workers. Yeah. Anyway,
they really are.
Yeah, it's a great mascot. Yeah. So Otoboke Beaver.
Yes.
What does the first word mean?
I actually don't know. Okay. Oto is sound. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be a portmanteau of though.
Nice. Well, that's cool. Yeah. So I'll look them up. That the thing you're saying about punk is interesting. I actually have this conversation about punk all the time because I find punk it's a fascinating idea. And it's like what you're talking about trained musicians, because I agree with you. There's sort of the impulse to put training in opposition to punk.
Right. And but then you think about a band like X, you know, like the guitarist's dad like was regularly played with Django Reinhardt or something.
Right.
Like there's an X documentary where the guitarist is just like playing like flawless gypsy jazz in the kitchen or something.
I mean but I feel like it's less about the training and more about the eschewing the training. Like it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Like I heard about this. It's a jazz performance, but it feels very punk in sensibility to me. Where it was a jazz pianist who did a whole concert on saxophone, and he didn't know how to play saxophone at all. And the idea is just like he's just making sounds. He's just making music. He has no idea how to play this instrument.
Yeah.
But he does a full concert on it, which is wild. Which is, if you're taking it seriously, very punk. And then it gets to that other thing do you know that with the H. John Benjamin?
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you were talking about it. Yeah.
Right. So it could go all the way to the sort of ridiculous, and then it kind of blends.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when that H. John Benjamin thing came out, like me and all my like fresh out of jazz school friends were like, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So this, what was it called? It's called like I Should Have Learned to Play Piano or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, anybody listening, it's worth checking out. There's a little like, even just the trailer for it's fine.
Yeah, the video is really, I think, the important part to see, because the session musicians are so confounded. It's very funny.
Oh man, it's great. They get a little like annoyed. At a certain point, they're like, "What is this?" Yeah.
Which is an understandable reaction.
Yeah. So with Throwaway, though, technique is definitely a part of it, for sure. I mean, like, especially like time changes and things like that. But that punk sensibility of the technique not mattering is interesting to me, because I remember when we met in Santa Monica at that UC Irvine party, we were talking about how neither of us is really like a gearhead.
Yeah.
Like I have become one more out of necessity, but I don't really like it. I don't really care about gear that much. And
totally.
I prefer playing kind of bad amps and stuff like that, and finding weird little corners where like, oh, it breaks in that register. That's neat. But that feels much more on the punk side of things. That sensibility. And so where, with Throwaway specifically, where would you say the sort of the gear, the sound, the technique meets so like that kind of virtuosic side meets the expressive side, which feels to me very punk. The expression feels very, quote, punk or something to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think like for me, the expression part is like the most important part of like any musical performance, like not even just Throwaway, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's sort of why I got interested in music in the first place, is like as that kind of like mode of expression.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's sort of secondary to that. Maybe it's like a extension of how kind of burned out I feel from like having to be on my phone all the time, and like laptops and stuff like that, that I really just can't be bothered to care about the minutia of like amps and like like the kind of pedals where you have to like program things in beforehand. You know, like I really like sort of approximating where my knobs should be and just sort of letting the pedals surprise me, and then sort of writing out the consequences of that surprise.
I love it.
Yep. Yeah, totally. You know, I sort of feel like, being too like, I guess I also just can't afford to be like a gearhead in terms of like amps, you know?
Yes.
Like I don't really have the wherewithal to buy like thousands of dollars Marshall stack.
Right.
So I'll make do with what I got.
Is that your golden, the Marshall stack? Is that what you
Not really.
You don't
I think
care.
Yeah. I think I kind of like have, I don't know, my association with Marshall stacks are like, there's definitely a double-edged sword there, where like some of my favorite guitarists of all time have played through Marshalls, and then like some of the most like obnoxious kind of like I'm a man and I'm basically using my guitar as my dick performances I've ever seen have also been through Marshall stacks.
Interesting. And I like how you're associating this with the Marshall stack.
Yeah.
It all comes back to Marshall.
It all comes back to the Marshall stack.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I associate Marshall stacks with that second thing you brought up a lot more. Yeah.
I think personally, because like I believe Graham Coxon of Blur played through Marshall stacks. And he's probably the most informative guitarist on like my style growing up. So like, if it weren't for Graham Coxon playing through Marshalls, I would definitely be entirely in the latter category.
Right. Yeah. Nice. Cool. Well, so that's the gear side of it.
Yeah. I have an orange, so that's my like.
I would have so if I like listen to your music and I say, what amp do I guess this person would want to play out of? It would be an orange for sure.
It's an orange, yeah.
Yep. Orange is great though. It goes all the way to like really heavy metal, like to how light do jazz players play out of orange? I don't know.
Not really, no.
Not really.
But I feel like
associated with like Slipknot actually.
Yeah. I actually think like the band that inspired me initially to get an orange, hilariously enough, was the Decemberists.
Ah, nice.
I was a giant Decemberist fan in high school, and when I saw them when they were touring Hazards of Love, I believe their guitarist was running through an orange. Nice. And that's when I was like, orange amps are so cool! And then...
They are cool.
Yeah.
They're kind of hard to work with, too.
Which kind of goes in with the whole, like, well, guess I'm gonna let this gear lead me and see what happens sort of thing that I like.
I like what you said about you put the knobs sort of approximately where you want them, and then you sort of deal with the consequence of that sound. I used to do that when I was doing more free improv. Sometimes I would kind of randomly tune my guitar, sort of like twist the tuning pegs, and I wouldn't check it until I started playing.
Oh shit. See, I don't have the courage for that.
And it's like, whoa, where are we?
That's very, very brave of you.
Well, no. It made sense in the context. We weren't playing anything like tonal. We weren't playing chords. It was just sounds, just abstract sounds, that kind of world. But cool. So you mentioned Primus, which is, I can very much see the connection. And then it's that mix of technique and humor.
Yes.
Now, I don't see Primus as having quite that kind of visceral or sort of like anger that I feel a little bit in some of Throwaway. Like, I feel like Throwaway has this sort of manicness to it sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. Like I was watching, what was the name of it was an old live performance.
Oh boy. Like us at the hi-hat, probably?
Yes. What was the name of the song? It had this really cool riff that was like changing meters, and then it was sort of like mumbling, but it had
it's probably like I Work, maybe?
Maybe. What was
Or Julep.
Julep, yes. That one was awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
But it was it has this like this focus and blur all at the same time. Which feels very expressive in a way where like it makes the Primus side of it, Primus, feel like just a rock band almost.
Thanks.
So where is that coming in for you? Like it's almost like art school or something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that, like those kind of like tweaks of it are definitely coming from more my emotional side. Right. I mean, the song that you just sort of, Julep, like when I first wrote it, I mean, I remember writing it in my, like, I had like a book for my like rock songs and like a composition book for my like free jazz songs. Okay. And Julep started in the free jazz book.
Ah, I can see that.
So I was sort of imagining it going to a free jazz, and then it became clear that it was maybe more for the rock project. But like that song is also about like the kind of like mystical entity that I call Julep in the song is sort of obliquely about alcoholism.
Oh, okay.
And I'm a child of an alcoholic. So like it, to me, like the whole song kind of takes place in this like very Lynchian kind of basement bar.
Okay.
Like has this sort of creepy vibe to it.
So it is the drink.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So then that brings up a whole other, like a personal side of it. This is something in my music, I tend not to be very personal, which I think is a flaw of mine. I tend to be sort of like philosophical with lyrics and things like that, which is fine. But the
two different sides of a coin.
But the bass player in my band is very personal. And so we kind of have this mix of that. So I'm interested in that. Would you say that or where would you put your writing on that? Because that feels like a very personal exploration.
I think it's
also world building to explore.
Like I think it's changed. Like I feel like Julep is a personal song, but it's kind of secretly a very personal song.
Yep.
Like there's nothing about it on the surface that would make you be like, oh, this is like kind of about a child of an alcoholic sort of like chewing over the vibes of like, what does it mean that she has begun to like have a beer, you know?
Right.
But I think especially with like, so like the first album of material, what I think sort of follows that general rule where if anything is very personal, it's sort of personal in a more detached way.
Right.
Or in a kind of like using humor, like in the way of like Exotic Bird to kind of like be like, this is a personal song, but I'm using humor to kind of distance myself from it a little bit.
Sure.
And the new one, Hand That Takes, there are a couple songs that are more personal, like 6.
Okay.
And And I think Q Babe is very personal, but it does do that humor trick as well.
Right.
The new stuff that I'm writing is way more like there's some humor in it, but it's less funny. It's more just like personal.
I see. So what is the function of humor in music for you, in your music?
I mean, I think it, for me, has been a way to make heavy emotional topics palatable.
Sure.
Yep. You know, for both myself and the listener, honestly. Like, you know, in the case of Q Babe, like that song is about having thought OCD. Okay. Which is, when I wrote it, it felt very nerve-wracking to me to write, because it is something that until very recently I found it very hard to talk about.
Sure.
So like adding this sort of like humorous part to it, so that it's sort of like cocky, sort of funny, like kind of has this like weird, like kind of bop to it, like jauntiness.
Sure.
Like that made it easier for me to write and easier for me to perform.
I see. Yeah. That makes sense.
You know.
Would you say that humor takes it to a place where you can be outside of it a little bit or something?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Well, I remember, I don't remember what comedian it was, but I mean, it's a little bit of a, he's making a lot out of comedy, but he was saying that most comedians laugh so that they don't have to cry or something like that. And it's like the happy clown, sad clown kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then there's a long history, of course, of like humor in the Jewish community as a way of dealing with traumas of the past and things like that. And I think that humor is it's a fascinating tool for how it can be treated artistically to face and deal with all sorts of painful or hard subjects.
Totally. There is that, for a while, this really great podcast called The Hilarious World of Depression, where this comedian, John Moe, just like interviewed like other comedians. And I remember like Andy Richter was on it. I think like Paul F. Tompkins was on it, like about their experiences with depression. And now he has a new podcast called Depression Mode, which is kind of more, he casts the net a little wider, but he talks to a ton of like artists and comedians still. Yeah, like that connection has always been interesting to me. I mean, the various ways that people cope with their kind of mental illness and trauma and what have you with humor and sort of the arts in general. A lot of people, I have a lot of people in my personal life who are like, hey, this Maria Bamford joke reminded me of you.
That's funny. Nice.
I'm like, thank you.
Well, at least it's good jokes.
Yeah. But there's like one joke in particular that one of the Throwaway drummers told me reminded him of me from her show Lady Dynamite, where she's like doing a stand-up in like a laundry room or something, and she's like, you ever just think about how you can murder your whole family?
Nice. Yeah.
And like the room is just dead silent.
That's great. I love it. Just to be able to do that is amazing.
Yeah, she's the best.
Just the command of the crowd too.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Back to Slipknot. It's like two different ways of commanding the crowd in the same way. Like what you're talking about being able to be in a laundry room or something with a group of people and just being able to take the space and just like, we're just going to say something really dark and just sit in this. And I'm going to take you there and just come with me is amazing. And it makes me, it's like the intimate corollary of that silly, like there was like a famous thing Slipknot does at every concert where they like have everybody get down and then he's like priming them and then they all jump around and like go insane.
Yeah.
But it's like it's this command of an audience that's crazy that I think of as a performer all the time. It's just that like, come with me, trust me, we're gonna do something.
Yeah.
And like,
I mean, I feel like for me, like I was never a huge Slipknot person growing up, but the band that did that for me was, can't believe I'm bringing this up twice, the Decemberists.
Oh, nice.
I saw them so many times as a teenager, and they would do shit like, all right, so like at this point in the song, we're gonna have everybody scream like they're being swallowed by a whale. And like one of the times I saw them, because I grew up in Chicago, they were like, all right, we have the Decemberist family players, and we're gonna go out there and we're gonna, with members of the audience, reenact the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It was so fun.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And they like, I think the guitar, like Colin Malloy, the main guy, stayed up on guitar and the drummer stayed up. And so they were like providing sound effects while the rest of the band like embodied like Al Capone and his gang.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same idea. It's having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that creating a journey. I think about this with music. I've been thinking about this a lot, that music is a form of magic.
Mm-hmm.
And that what you're doing is you're sort of making an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
Like an illusion space that the musician and the audience is sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And so like a good musician is like, come on, trust me. We're going to be up here. It's not me and you, it's this. We're going to be in this world. Which is interesting, like what you're talking about with Julep, is you are creating a world.
Mm-hmm.
And the world doesn't have to be nice, but it's like, it can be like, hey, have you ever thought we're all going to kill or I'm going to kill my family in the night or something? That's not really nice. But it's like this shared world, and everybody's like, yeah, I maybe have thought something sort of like that.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever, have you watched Adventure Time?
No, I know about it. I haven't. I am a big cartoon guy. All I watch is cartoons, but I haven't.
And you've never watched Adventure Time?
That one and Rick and Morty.
Wow.
Partly it's because people always tell me to, and
I'd hit up Adventure Time before Rick and Morty.
Okay.
It's better. It is more consistent.
Okay, cool.
But there's in Adventure Time, at some point, they bring up this idea of the wizards in the show being kind of guided around the three pinnacles of magic, madness, and sadness.
Magic, madness, and sadness.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
And it's just one of those moments where it's like a very clear metaphor for being a creative, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
So I've like found myself thinking about that a lot kind of ever since I watched those episodes. And I mean, we've talked about that kind of, how that all plays out.
Yep. Well, and then with Throwaway specifically, a lot of your videos have that animated, are animated, right?
Yeah.
Or at least animated in a sense of, at the very least, a superimposition of. How should I describe like the character of Throwaway? Throwaway is.
Yeah, her name is Throwaway.
Her name is Throwaway. Okay.
Yeah.
Her name is Throwaway. So this character being embodied, either superimposed onto something, whether it's animation or video or something like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean that the conjuring of something that's being embodied is interesting there. So where do you fit into Throwaway then?
So the narrative.
Wonderful.
I mean, kind of the idea is that like Throwaway is kind of an entity that takes the slot where I would be like in her version of the world, and like that version of the world is the world that we see through our like screens as we're like scrolling through Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or whatever.
Okay.
Which is why she does not make appearances at live performances, only on screens.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then she doesn't make live performances. So the live performance, how does the narrative translate into the live performance then?
I mean, if I'm in her slot in this world, then I'm doing the live performance.
I see.
It's kind of a symbiosis.
Right. Also, does she play guitar in the videos?
Oh, yes.
In the video? Okay. Cool.
Oh, no,
maybe.
She plays guitar. We have yet to like fully animate her doing the correct fingerings and everything.
Nice. Well, I guess it'd be funny to like those old Metalocalypse cartoons and stuff where the fingers, but they still have 3 fingers, right?
In Metalocalypse?
A tradition?
I actually haven't. I've only seen a couple episodes of it. It's been a second.
I think there's a tradition in cartooning that cartoons only have 3 fingers.
I think it's 4.
Is it 4?
Yeah. Like SpongeBob, I believe, has 4 fingers.
Is one of them
Mickey
a thumb,
Mouse,
though?
I think, has 4. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I get what you're saying. Yes.
So 3 to play guitar with.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So the newest video, Dinosaur.
Yes.
I've watched that a few times now. It's pretty wild. It's pretty cool. The animation on it. Did you do that?
Ben did it. Ben Willis.
It's very cool animation.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben's an incredible animator. That was sort of his like COVID incubation, was to like he did a bunch of music videos for this band we played with in Osaka that's absolutely incredible called Oh Summer Vacation. And he did a music video for another Detroit band called Summer Like the Season.
Okay.
That's also a kind of a mix of live action and animation.
Nice.
And he's done like music videos for like Mark Kirschman and William Hooker's duo and like things like that. But yeah, I went to Ben and my friend Maddie Rager, who is one half of a performance art duo based in Detroit called Thank You So Much for Coming. And I told them I wanted to, for Dinosaur, which is this very like aggressive song, have a music video with throwaway and dancing dinosaurs that was in the kind of referential vibe and same vein of the music videos of a J-pop artist named Kyari Pamu Pamu.
Okay.
If you or anyone listening has not watched Kyari Pamu Pamu music videos, they are immaculate. You will spend the afternoon. I highly recommend starting with Ninja Re Bang Bang.
Okay. And
then following up with Pon Pon Pon.
Okay. Cool.
And then Tsukema Tsukeru, which just kind of follow that until you come to it. It's a song about wearing fake eyelashes and feeling cute.
Oh, nice. Cool. That's fun.
Yeah. But like all these music videos are like very vivid and have these kind of like dancing while in these like, sometimes like in Ninja Re Bang Bang, like she's live action and everything surrounding her is animated. Or otherwise it's like all live action, but like people are just in like ridiculous costumes and like these very like grand settings. They're all like they're amazing videos.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, so what if we just like had dancing and like pop music dancing and this kind of like bubbly aesthetic, but like in the background, like a city is being destroyed.
Wonderful. That's great. Dinosaur.
Yes.
So you seem to have a lot of connection to Japanese music, art, culture.
Yeah.
how long have you been interested? Was it through sort of anime interests growing up and things like that?
It started there. I mean, I kind of one of my jokes is that I became interested in like everything a 12-year-old boy likes between the ages of like 18 and 20.
Nice.
So like I didn't really, I mean, I liked Pokemon as a kid, but I didn't really get into anime until my junior year of college. And my friend,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And my friend gave me Cowboy Bebop and was like, you should watch this. I was like, okay. And I fell in love with it. And then from there watched like Samurai Champloo. And then that went into Akira. And then that eventually bumped into, or no, this is my senior year of college.
Whoa.
Yeah. Because once all the dust settled, all of Attack on Titan was out.
Mm-hmm.
So then I watched all of Attack on Titan, and it kind of just went from there.
Okay.
And to now it kind of just snowballed to this point where like I got reinterested because I took 1 year of Japanese in high school, and I was like, oh, I should like dig back into the language. And then as I became more obsessed with anime, I became interested in going to Japan and got interested in Japanese music. And then I went to Japan and I became interested in the shamisen and got a grant to study the shamisen.
Wow.
So now I'm like actually next week going to Japan for 3 months to study shamisen.
That's amazing.
I was supposed to go in April 2020, but so it goes with the world.
Something happened, right?
Yeah, something happened. So yeah, it was this sort of snowball effect, but like it's sort of strange. And then like video games came into that and all that. But like it's sort of like this weird thing where it's like you would think it started in my childhood because of how deeply I just fell into that, but like it, you know, it's only been like a decade. Because I'm 30.
That's a good age.
Yeah, it's a fine age.
Wonderful.
But yeah, it was the kind of thing where like the more I kind of like used my little ins as like ways to kind of further dig into larger perspectives of Japan and Japanese society and Japanese art, I just sort of felt like a lot of the ways that I kind of like interface with the world and also kind of like think about music and art are sort of like reflected in the art that they are comes out of Japan. So it's kind of like a cozy, it feels very cozy to me.
And it's
Japan
very cool
does.
that you're working on the shamisen playing like specifically. I heard about this band. I don't even remember what they're called.
Is it God of Shamisen?
No. It's nothing to do with shamisen.
Oh, wow.
I just mean that. So I appreciate that you're going to Japan to learn it. Somebody showed me this band. It's these two guys, and they go around the world and they just find instruments, and they specifically don't learn how to play them.
Oh, wow.
And they just like make whatever music they can on them, which is fine. It's a little bit like that saxophone thing, but it feels like a little weird.
I think I might have moral issues with it.
No, I agree. I kind of get it, but like you're being pretty disrespectful to these guys.
To like make a point of like it's our whole thing to go and like find these like instruments of other cultures and just not learn anything about them, and that's like our thing.
Like we have guitars, we can do that with our instruments too.
Right.
I mean, this thing is like you and I do weird things with guitars, but that's the culture we grew up in.
Right.
It's a little bit strange to go to another country and be like, I'm gonna mess with your instrument.
Yeah. I mean, it's like for me with the shamisen, like I am honing in and like studying the tsuguru style, which is actually having like a moment in anime.
Oh, cool.
Like multiple animes are like animes. Who am I? Multiple anime are like referencing shamisen, but the tsuguru style in particular.
Okay.
There was even just a tsuguru shamisen anime last year.
Oh. Okay. So what is this it's a particular like technique or genre? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's a couple different types. I mean there's like there's sort of like the shamisen playing like that accompanies like kabuki theater. Like that's one kind.
Okay.
And then you have and there's more styles than this too, I'm sure. And then the kind of shamisen you might see in like a geisha house, where like a geisha would be singing a song and accompanying herself on shamisen. And I think there's like juta, and then there's one that's like shorter songs.
Okay.
And then there's like festival shamisen, which kind of relates back to the other two in a certain way. Sure. And all of those styles are like centuries old.
Wow. Okay.
But because the shamisen is related to an instrument that came to Japan from China, like probably around 1600.
It's something
history
like
lesson.
Lute,
Look
right?
at
This
this.
is cool. This is awesome. I like it. So, is it a lute or a guitar?
No, I have it right here.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's kind of lute-ish. I kind of compare it to the banjo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's amazing. It's fretless?
Yes.
Okay.
I have little like pencil sketchings of where my frets are.
And it's played with a plectrum, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this
cool.
like big fan thing.
Nice.
But the style tsuguru that I'm learning has its basis in Aomori, which is the northernmost prefecture on Japan's main island.
Okay.
And so it has like the, it's like harsh winters, like that kind of thing. And the style originated from street performers who were going door to door trying to like, beg for money, like essentially busking.
Right.
But to kind of one up another and get more attention, they started trying to be the one who plays the fastest and the loudest.
Oh, nice. Okay. So then they start playing like thrash metal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So like this whole style of shamisen started that's just like fast and loud.
Is there sweep picking on shamisen?
There's not sweep picking, but there is kind of like it's, oh shit, what's it called? Oh, my sensei would be so mad at me. It's like you hold the bachi down on the neck and kind of like sweep it instead of picking it back up again.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I want to hear this. And so it's virtuosic, it sounds like.
Yeah, the people who are like really good at it are, I'll send you some videos.
Yeah.
Like my sensei has like sent me kind of a list.
Nice.
But the people who are like virtuosos are completely like, you watch these videos and you're just like, what the hell? It's so crazy.
Yep.
And it's such a loud instrument too.
Really?
Because the body is hollow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a skin and then hollow wood, and you're whacking it as hard as you can, basically. So it's like sometimes after I practice, like my ears are ringing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's that loud?
It's really loud.
That's crazy. Well, that also makes it like banjo, because banjo's super loud too.
Yeah.
Guitars are so quiet.
I know.
They're such like delicate little instruments.
Yeah, we need those giant Marshall stacks to make it loud.
It's so silly. Well, that's awesome. That's amazing. And so you're heading off next week to do a few months of study for that.
Yep.
Very, very cool. Is shamisen gonna find its way into Throwaway?
I don't know. So
Okay.
like, I think the whole reason I started talking about this is that like I finally got to a place where like in my improvisational practice, I'm starting to kind of like peek in shamisen.
Yeah. Okay.
I played my first public show on shamisen earlier this year in a kind of like improvisational context.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cool.
I had a sort of semi-show, semi-hang with people in LA,
Okay.
where I was just like, where I improvised on shamisen.
Nice.
So it's like I'm starting to find those kind of like, you know, like effects and extra techniques and stuff like that. But I mean, at least to me personally, it was important that I'm coming from a ground where I'm like learning at least one of the like actual schools of this instrument. And then kind of from there and from having that point of view, kind of starting to venture out and figuring out how it can go into like other work, you know? But I've also just fallen in love with playing it in the kind of more traditional senses.
That's great. I love it.
So much fun.
It's similar to me with banjo. Like I found banjo a few years ago, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And like learning clawhammer style.
Oh, that's so cool.
I love clawhammer, and it's like it's so limited too. It's like we were talking about the playing on a bad amp. Because how you play it, there's so few things you can do, but then it opens up all this new type of creativity and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, it's great. So before we play something, let's circle back. I'm interested because you were saying when you were in school, you had your free jazz notebook. Did you study jazz in school?
I sure did.
You sure did? Yeah, so you went to college for music, right?
Yes.
Okay. I actually don't know your history that well.
Oh, dang.
So yeah. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I studied jazz at the University of Michigan.
Okay. Good spot.
Yeah, it's great.
Is it great? Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of my friends and collaborators are still like a really shocking number are people I just went to school with. I mean, like I met Ben at U of M and Maddie I met at U of M and John Taylor, who's the current drummer for Throwaway.
Cool.
U of M, like
nice.
A lot of people in my life are people I met, you know, in those 4 years. Which is very wild to think about, but also just sort of shows the strength of their arts program.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird, and I'm honest, I don't know. Maybe in some ways it's gotten better, but in some ways it seems like it's unfortunately very similar. Like being at a female in a jazz program in 2010, it was sort of weird.
I see.
And I think actually a lot of my decisions about where to go with my career were highly influenced by sexism.
Oh, okay.
But like the quiet kind.
Interesting. Okay.
Like my sophomore year, these like 3 new guitarists came in and all 3 were male. And they were like, 2 of them at least were very kind of like flashy and cool.
Right. Marshall Stacks. Yeah.
Yeah. One of them is totally a Marshall Stack kind. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And like, I just had multiple experiences where I got outshined by them.
Sure.
For no reason, I
Right.
think, other than the people, like kind of the people who held the keys to being the cool guys in the program.
I see.
Were like, oh, you're one of the guys. Let's hang out. Let's do this. And like, I never got that invitation.
I see.
And that's kind of what drove me to going free.
Right.
And getting
like
into
just like feeling
improvisation.
not accepted into the club.
Right. I was like, well, fuck this.
Of course.
Like, I'm just gonna go over here and be mad.
Yeah.
And I discovered that was a much better fit for me anyway.
Sure.
And the people who were in that scene had a lot less quiet sexism.
Sure.
About how they interfaced with the world.
Yeah. I think it's tough with those situations where they're looking for something sort of specific and they're not even maybe they are aware of it. Maybe they're doing it on purpose. Maybe they're just so focused on this flashiness that they're not even aware of the fact that they're isolating you and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think it was intentional. I definitely don't think it was intentional.
Right.
But it was,
But not a welcoming space.
Right. It's like a weird thing where you're like, well, this person wasn't trying to be this way, but the effect was still that I felt unwelcome in the space.
Yep.
At the end of the day, which is like it's tricky. It's like, that's the tricky thing about like quiet sexism or quiet racism, right? It's like people say they aren't thinking that way, but just because of how our society functions, like a lot of people have certain kind of like patterns of thinking or patterns of social acting kind of ingrained in them.
Yep.
And, the results are what they are.
I feel like in a leading a music studio in a higher education sense is sort of difficult in that you end up with different types of students who have different focuses and different needs, and being able to foster a situation where the spaces that they're occupying are given their sort of fair due or something like that. So you have the flashy virtuosic whatever, playing all their Paganini and stuff, and you go, oh great, that's awesome. And then somebody else who's doing something sort of inherently different, and being able to elevate both of them as much as you can and have them coexist is it's a difficult, but I think maybe like a crucial element of fostering a music studio.
Totally. I mean, and I think U of M is like they were good at that, I think, especially compared to other schools back then. And I think under one of because like when I went, like once I did the turn towards free improvisation, I still felt pressure, like I should still be doing my bebop studies and scales and all that,
Yeah.
Even though that was kind of increasingly becoming clear that was not me.
Yep. 2-5-1s.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's getting better. Like one of the people who was like most supportive to me is Andrew Bishop, who is now the chair of the department.
Okay, cool.
And he's very conscious of all this, and also very conscious about like, trying to make sure female students are supported and all that kind of thing. I mean, when I was in the program too, it was like 60 people at least, like in the 60s. And
is the whole jazz program or jazz?
The whole jazz program. Okay. And the fact that I'm counting on my hands says a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them were women.
Wow. Okay. That's quite a ratio.
Yeah. And three of those women were me and 2 other people from my year.
I'm glad you. 3 of those women were me. Period.
Yeah, 3 of those women were me.
Like, what? I was living a triple life at the time.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
As a bebopper, a rock guitarist, and a freak jazz guitarist.
Yeah. Did you ever go back to bebop?
No.
Never.
No.
Interesting.
I mean, like, I think for a little bit after I graduated, I kind of like, I think even maybe when I lived in LA, I went through a period where I was just sort of like, oh, bebop is kind of fun if there's like no pressure to it. And
Right.
I'm, started practicing Donna Lee and was like, yeah, this is like a fun finger stretch,
Yep.
which it is. But I have not played a jazz head now in 3 years since the pandemic.
So you don't. This is the tricky part. Is like that the desire to sort of prove yourself to the music gods or something. Or like to the bebop gods or to the classical god. I get this every now and then. It's like I can play a concerto. And
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Why am I spending my time trying to do this? And I'll spend like a week, and then I'll be like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why do I need to prove that? Who am I proving this to?
Right. I got a whole book of like, I had someone at Banff recommended that I get the Bach concertos, or like, I think he specifically said actually the cello concertos, which is what I have somewhere.
Or the concerto. The suites?
The suites. Yeah. Sorry.
See?
Exactly. And I practiced them for a week and it was like super fun, but then
yeah. I mean, Bach's great. I probably, if I'm going to go classical, that's the first thing I'll do. But
yeah, I think for me, it's more like I'm not practicing those to be, because I'm going to play them live. I just think they're they're fun to practice.
Yep.
But I think like the space in my brain that would take up is now being occupied by practicing shamisen.
Yep.
So.
But you see, you have a pursuit that you want to do. You're not like trying to prove yourself to.
Totally.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not like
silly
I'm not like I'm gonna shed Donna Lee so I can go to the jam and maybe I'll get a gig with the drummer.
Right, exactly. A gig that you don't even want that much.
I don't even really want that gig.
Dude, I made the mistake of going to a jazz jam, and they called me to play something, and they said, "Do you know it?" And I was like, "Maybe I can figure it out." And I could not figure it out. They got really mad at me. They stopped me mid solo.
Oh no!
They were like, "If you don't know it, don't play." And I was like,
"Oh fuck!"
It's like,
but
okay.
see, that's also kind of like the shitty attitude of jazz nowadays that makes it unwelcoming. You know?
It's
sort of like, instead of being like, if you don't know it, don't play, be like, oh, you don't know it, let us teach it to you. Like, here's the changes.
Yep. I feel like there's this jazz thing, though. Like, if you don't know, get out of here kind of a thing.
Totally.
Yep. Yeah, that's jazz. I mean, it's not just jazz, but it is jazz.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, do you want to play something? Do you want to play a jazz tune? No, I'm just kidding.
Let's play Stablemates.
Yeah.
Stablemates was one of the ones I liked.
Nice. I mean, I love jazz songs. I mean, I practice them from time to time. But maybe I'll grab my banjo.
Ooh.
All right, I'll be right back.
I kind of want to hear what a banjo shamisen duo sounds like. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I might need to tune.
Okay.
Wait, what key is your banjo in?
C.
Oh, so is my shamisen.
Amazing.
Wait. There's I don't know I hope it's not coming through, but in my building outside of the studio window, we're lucky enough to be directly by our building's AC unit.
Nice.
That just runs for the whole building. And it emits a very loud drone that is a perfect D.
Perfect. Okay, great. So you're always on a C9.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
How's the levels for that?
I can hear. I'll just play softly too. We can kind of have a.
Cool. I'm not totally used to octave, fifth octave.
Yeah, and I just have the ninth on there.
Dang, yeah. The difference is I'm not used to doing double stops on mine.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's tough. Nice. Actually, I can hear it pretty well through your headphones.
Oh, hooray.
That was great. Nice. Well, that was fun. We got some neat places.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah. So, what's coming up for Throwaway, Kirsten?
Well, for Kirsten, I mean, I'm about to spend 90 days in Japan, so
Amazing.
If anyone happens to be in Japan, I do have a couple shows on guitar. One of them is going to be with Ryosuke Kiyasu of Fushi. God, I can never say this band name. Fushitsucha? And then Throwaway, we are finishing recording our next album, which is going to be a rock opera.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, I'm very excited for it. And everyone should watch out for that.
Is there a release date or an estimate?
Oh, no, we're still in the...
It's just trucking. Okay.
Yeah. We played it live for the first time earlier this year in its entirety, and
Amazing.
then we jumped into the studio.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, that's super
2024? Who knows?
Okay, well, I'm excited for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for talking with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I'll throw away links below. Everybody follow. Go find Kirsten. Go find Throwaway. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
All right, thanks for listening or watching. That was Kirsten Carey. Be sure to check her out. Check out Throwaway. Go subscribe, watch the videos, do all the stuff. All right, I'll see you all next time. Bye.